Now we just sit here and hope that something happens.
You weren't recording this whole time?
No, I am. It's been recording.
Oh, so this is part of the show now.
Yeah.
Nice.
I might leave some of it out, but, you know.
Nah.
Anyway, so what have you been up to the past couple months? You were renovating your kitchen.
Oh my gosh, the past couple months? Well, I found out I was getting laid off, so I quit my job just to stick it to them. And then we had plans to. So right now we're living in my in-laws' basement, which is a fairly large basement. It's not
Which is
like an unfinished.
Which I know who that is, but it's your wife's parents, right?
Yes, that's what in-laws means. Yeah.
Not always. You could be at like somebody's, like your.
That's true. Could be like a brother-in-law. It's definitely not that.
Yeah.
Yeah, her parents. So they have a pretty large basement, so we have our own bedroom. My son has his own bedroom, and then we have like a master bath. And then there's a big living space, and then across there is it just was an extra room. That was originally our room when we were in there, because we were in there, and then we switched. Well, technically we moved to Utah, and then we came back and switched rooms. But yeah, so we got a kitchenette in there, did the whole thing ourselves. Countertops, cabinets, sink. Ordered all the appliances, and now we just get to be out of the kitchen upstairs now. Nice.
Excuse me. Yes. When did you come back from Utah again?
We came back May of 2023.
And you
Mid-May.
left October 2022.
Yep. So we actually got there on Halloween. We left a couple days. It was like the 26th of October, I think. And then, first day was Halloween, and November 1st, we got our trailer parked. And, we were there for about 6.5 months. 6.5 months.
What all did you do down there?
Can you turn my headset down a little bit? When
Yeah.
we were, so...
How's that?
I can't hear. Oh, that's good. You can turn it up a little bit more.
Oh.
Check.
Check.
A little bit more. Check. That's good right there.
All right. About where it was.
So we had gone down there with kind of intentions to help start the young adults portion of the church. And I was mainly, not mainly. I was doing that, and I was also helping play drums. So they had acquired like a drum kit, and we were doing full setup tear down every weekend for the church plant. So I forgot we haven't really talked about this.
No.
Yeah, so when we got down there, it was hot. It got hot fast because down there summers are like.
But you were there in the fall and winter, weren't you?
Yeah, it was nice for like November, December, January. So we got out before I got like crazy. But it was super nice. It was way different than what we're used to here in Michigan. It was like 80s, 70s, 80s most of the time.
But it's drier.
Yeah, they say it's a dry heat, but when you sweat, it doesn't feel any different. So, but yeah, it was nice. But anyway, so we were doing that. I was helping with drums. So we were in for the first part while I was there, a movie theater. So they rented out just one theater space, and then I think it held, I want to say about, 120 people ish. And then actually we rented two, because one was for the adults, one was for the kids. And so they worked it out where we actually got to store the stuff underneath. There's like that random space between the wall and the screen where the curtain hangs down. Excuse me. And so luckily, I think when we got there, the church launched, I think it was January 8th. And so we had a night of worship on New Year's Eve, night of worship for New Year's Eve. And then we had a couple like dry runs where we'd bring everything set up, tear down. But at that point we couldn't leave the stuff in the space. So we had like a 20-foot, 30-foot trailer or something like that. We packed everything. It was all in there. And then we set up, did some songs, and then we tore it down and packed it all up in the trailer, wheeled it out. It was a lot of work. And then I think the third.
How long did it take to set everything up each time?
I mean, as with anything, the first times were like a little bit rough. So
Yeah, because you're figuring it out.
yeah, well, we kind of got a system going, and honestly, I could get the drum set up faster by myself than when I had people help me. Because I'm trying to explain to people what to do, and I'm just like, if you would have let me do it, I'd be done already. But you want to let people feel helpful, so it would take. I think the first couple of times it maybe took an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Then we got it to where we could get done in like 30 minutes, pretty much.
But you had to do that even if you were just rehearsing.
So we actually rehearsed in one of the family's garages. So they had a pretty big setup. He had almost like a little concert venue in his garage. Like he had a little stage. He had those big, what do you call those silver trusses? I think trusses that they had like lights and stuff on. So like he had a lot of stuff. He had a soundboard.
Was his garage big?
Yeah, it was fairly. It was like a little bit bigger than. Actually, I think it was a 3-car garage. So there was a decent amount of space. It was like he would still park the 2 cars in there, and then on the left side was like the space for rehearsing.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't bad because we usually rehearse, I think Monday nights, and the weather was like when the sun went down, it was pretty cool. So it was like around 60, so it wasn't ever terribly like cold or hot. It was nice in there, which is surprising. So yeah, we would rehearse. We did a lot of very similar songs or like a lot of repetitive songs just to kind of get right because you're trying to start a culture of worship there. So you got to get people familiar with the songs, and you got to get the band where they could be solid, but also still have some variety. So I think we probably had 6 or 8 songs that we did for probably the first month or two that we didn't really change from. Like we did I Thank God a lot. Man, I played that song so many times. I Thank God. We started doing.
We used to play that song a lot too. Yep.
Everybody did. What was that song? By Elevation is like, I see lightning, I hear thunder. Doom, doom, doom. Do you remember that song? Did you ever play that one?
No, we didn't.
Oh, Do You See What I See? I think is what it's called. We played that one a lot.
Do you see what I see?
not the Christmas special.
I know.
Oh man, but yeah, that's what we were doing. So that was like Sundays, and then with me trying to get young adults off the ground, my biggest challenge was trying to find like a place to meet because everything is. Right, you have a very heavy Mormon influencer, LDS, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Most people call themselves LDS, or I'm a part of the LDS church. So, and most of the people, even the movie theater that we were in is called the Larry H. Miller Megaplex. And Larry H. Miller was actually like a billionaire or something, somebody with crazy amounts of money. And he actually passed away. Never really knew who he was, but his family owned the movie theater, and they were very. It's kind of like the more money you have, the higher up you are in the LDS church. Sometimes throw your weight around a little bit more. I guess that's how it works in every circle, but especially in the LDS church. And so we had like signs and awning and stuff in the movie theater parking lot, and they saw that. Like there were actually people like scouting us out, and they said you have to take that. The movie theater came to us and said you have to take that down. Like we've been told you can't have that up. So we were reduced to like one, bifold sign in front of the door, and we had like one, I think, thing by the sidewalk in the grass, a little stick sign, the metal wires or whatever. And so they made their way around it. They actually got a bigger building after we left, but while we were there, it was all in the movie theater.
Is that the end of your sentence?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Forgot what the original question was.
What you guys were doing down in Utah, but you kind of explained it.
The young adult stuff, like I was attempting to, and
we were on the young adults.
The pastor and I, we weren't exactly like he pretty much gave me free range to kind of figure it out, and I was also having a baby at that time. My wife and I, when we moved down there, she was 27 weeks pregnant, so. It wasn't very long before we had our son. He was born February 9th, so we got there, November, December, and then he was born like basically first, second week of February. So she was very pregnant, very sick, so she wasn't able to participate in a lot of the stuff. which is a bummer for her. And we're living in a camper. I don't know if you ever saw it. It was massive, but
Yeah, you were living down by the river.
yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yep.
Before you left for
we were at
Utah.
Genesee, yeah.
Yeah.
At the steamboat park. That was fun.
It was a
honestly,
nice place.
honestly, like we would do it again. We could live in a camper. We could travel, live on the road, but with a baby and another one on the way, it'll be out of our future for a little while.
Yeah, it makes things more difficult. But you were trying to find a place for the youth to meet, and nobody liked kids coming over to your trailer.
So there was a. When you say it like that, it sounds bad. No, we never hosted anybody at our camper. I mean, it's tiny. Our living room space was about the size of your table. But I was looking at, there was one coffee shop that was owned by a Christian family, and I reached out to them, and I couldn't quite figure it out with the staff. Like, they're like, yeah, we could do something, but then it never worked out to have like a staff member there. I tried a few other places, and I was like, I'm almost just ready to meet in a park, but I really wanted to have a nice place. And there was actually another church owned this spot. It was called the Harbor. It was kind of like almost like a studio apartment. Like, you just walk in, and it's just like a space with couches and a TV, and they had it was a self-serve coffee bar almost, and it was all run on donations, and they just put it up as like a safe space for people to come and meet. And I think it was probably maybe underutilized.
Is it open to everybody, or do you have to get a key to go in?
No, the doors are open. Like, it was like 10 to 7 or something every day, pretty much. So, but there's no staff. There's nobody working there, and they had like a little wooden table along the wall with like self-serve tea, and they had a coffee pot going. You could make coffee and like creamers and stuff. And they actually, so that church was like a Calvary chapel. They would meet there every, I think, Friday night. And so I was trying to get something set up on like a Tuesday or a Thursday, and we were trying to figure it out because I'm still trying to make rehearsals for worship team.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get together young adults, and just trying to figure out a way to bring together the young adults from like Hill, because there was a lot of people. Basically, how it worked is my job was to reach out to, because we have the forms, right? If you're like a new person, you can fill out your name, you give me your phone number, your email, what your age is, and depending on the age range or what ministry you're interested in, they would get filtered to me. So they get sent to me, and I have to like text them, reach out to them, guys, girls alike. And sometimes it was like parents that were filling out that form for their kids, and I'm like, well, this is awkward. This is like a young adult ministry. Why are you, like, your kid's 23. I think he can text me himself. I don't think he needs your help. And my thing is, like, I'm not gonna force anybody to come. Like, I'll reach out, sure, that's great, but I also need some interest on your end to come and find some community. I can't, especially not knowing you, I can't drag you out of your mom's basement to come and join our young adult group. But yeah, I didn't really see too much come from it, because we were there a pretty short time. I mean, it felt like a long time with Beth being pregnant and being sick, because 6.5 months is not enough time to get a young adult ministry off the ground. And our pastor wanted to get the young adults going like a month after the church launched. So we were there in November. Church didn't launch till January, and then we had our son in February. So it was kind of like trying to make these things happen, but I'm pretty stretched thin. Like, it's just me and my wife, and she's incapacitated basically the whole pregnancy. And then we have a newborn who has a lot of complications. So Hugo had torticollis when he was born, which I don't know if you know what that means, but basically he was laying on one side in the womb the whole time. So like his neck muscles were not fully stretched out. Oh. So it was almost like having a pinched nerve. It's kind of what we took him to a chiropractor actually to help a lot with that. And so he was just in a lot of pain all the time, which we didn't know. And so he was crying all the time, all day.
And something's up.
Like, he wouldn't sleep well, and we didn't know, but he actually had a tongue and a lip tie, which, if you don't know what that is, makes it really hard for him to nurse, because he could barely lift his tongue off the bottom of his mouth. Like, I can stick my tongue out. He couldn't even stick his tongue out of his mouth. So it makes it really hard to latch on and get the milk that he needs. So that part was really hard and really frustrating, and not having, you know, not having your community around you that you're used to. Like, we had some friends, but it's just not the same as having mom and dad around on both sides of the family, having the people that you've been friends with for a long time. And like, the people, they were pretty great, but you know, I just don't think anybody really understood exactly what was going on. And we don't have the medical expertise to diagnose, like, hey, he's just a really fussy kid. He, like, we don't know what's wrong, but he would cry and scream, and you'd be be hungry and in pain. And we were just like, this is ridiculously hard.
Yeah,
And
especially because you weren't working down there, right? You were just trying to help the church build.
Yeah,
were they going to plan on helping you with medical costs, or what was like
No, I mean, we were out there solely on our own. And like, the people, we had a couple people who supported us, and that was pretty much it. I was willing to get a job and work down there, but for us, like, we only had the one car, and that means Beth would be home all day by herself with the baby in a place that she knows nobody. And I wasn't really willing to work, to like work full time and subject her to that, and
then try to do the church full time.
Yeah, because I mean, you're having a kid is a full time job, starting a church is a full time job, and you know, we had only been married we got married in February, so Hugo was born before our 1 year anniversary. So we were still trying to figure out how we work together. She got pregnant, I think 2 or 3 months in. So somebody else can do the math on that. But she was sick the whole time. So what a lot of people don't know is that she had what's called HG, hyperemesis, gravidarum, which basically means she is nauseated and sick 24/7. It's like way more extreme morning sickness. Like, pregnant women will get up and, feel queasy, nauseated, like, throw up. Like, I'm sure we've all seen our moms, if we're, an older sibling, kind of go through some of that. But for her, she could barely stomach any food. She couldn't stomach any food. Not barely. She could not stomach food. She couldn't stomach water. She couldn't keep down anything. So I helped her a lot. Like, before we left, I was working at Amazon as a delivery driver, and basically all she did while I was gone was lay in bed. She wouldn't eat. We basically figured out that sparkling water worked the best. It would kind of, I don't know if it was carbonation, but that would sort of not ease, but it would stay down. That was the only thing that she wouldn't throw up. And so she lost like 30 pounds her pregnancy with Hugo. And like right when she gave birth, she was like right back to her pre-pregnancy weight, because all the weight that she gained was just baby and placenta and everything that was growing, fluids. So she gained no weight, which you're supposed to gain a lot of weight because you have 50% more blood in your body. You're trying to build another human inside of you. Like, so it's pretty dangerous. I mean, the amount of women that have it is pretty low. I think it's like it's either 2% of women or 15% of women. I always get the stats wrong, but there was a pretty significant percentage of women that terminate their pregnancies with HG, like have an abortion, just because it's so bad. I think it was 2% of women have HG, and 15% of those women abort their babies because it's just so bad. I could be wrong. Somebody has to check on that, but it's astounding, and I never heard of it. There's a few people that we talked to at Res, like Pastor Carson, his wife had it, so she understood. A lot of different ways people deal with it is they get like a PICC line in their collarbone for IVs if they do them like weekly or daily or like every other day just to stay hydrated. So she was getting infusions for that. We probably did that 3 times a week with her first pregnancy, and we did it with this one as well for our second son who's coming here in a couple weeks. But it wasn't having quite the same effect. But before we left, like she would, she'd be incontinent, so she'd like throw up and pee herself all over the floor. She could barely walk. Like there was times where like I'm holding her as her legs and whole body is shaking just because she has nothing in the tank. She's just toast. So she took all that with her to Utah. None of that changed until she delivered. Like when the placenta detached and she gave birth, like it was gone, which was crazy. She still had some like lingering nausea, but as far as like the absolute food aversion and the throwing up and not being able to keep anything down for days, that was gone. So it was just purely a pregnancy thing. Yeah. Which she has with this one as well, which makes.
Is it something that comes with every child? Or is it just like there's a good chance?
A lot of people, HG is not very well like researched, and so there's not a bunch of information on it. Doctors know what it is, but they don't know necessarily what causes it, and they don't know anything to help it, and they don't know. Some women will have one pregnancy with HG, and the next one they won't have it. Some women will have their HG be less with the second pregnancy, or it'll be worse. It's different with different trimesters. Like with this pregnancy, her second trimester was actually fairly easy. So she was able to kind of stomach some food, and she still didn't want to eat, but she wasn't having the constant urge to throw everything up.
Yeah.
So she felt a little bit more normal. But on a day-to-day right now, she operates, if like a 1 is good and 10 is bad, she operates at like a 7 to 8 every day, nausea-wise. So it's like, it's not good. She fakes it a lot when we go places. But there's nothing that doctors have figured out how to make it better. They just like drink water, eat whatever you can, and get through it. Or they, some doctors will bring up abortion, but none of ours did, and that wasn't an option for us. But that's probably why this will probably be our last one biologically, unless the Lord has something else to say. But might be vasectomy and condom time for a long time.
That young, huh? Only 26, and
hey,
I get it.
It's like for her, like we would both love to have more kids, and if we do decide, we'll adopt. But like biologically for her, like our whole, basically, right? Because you're pregnant it's 40 weeks, which is actually like 10 months. It's not 9 months, as most people think. Those months are weird with a 30 days, whatever. It's like technically 10 months. So out of let's see, we had 2 years in February. So what is it? March, April, May, June, July. 2.5 years. She's been sick for like 18 months of those.
Jeez.
Yeah, just deathly. So it's like, I'm not gonna say it's not worth it, but it's so hard on her body. Like before, when we first got married, I won't tell you what her weight was when we got married, but she was jacked. Like her legs were strong, her arms. She was probably stronger than I was, and at that time I was working out a ton. Like she was doing hikes with 60-pound vests on. Like she was strong.
She was one of those people?
She was one of those people.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but she was very into fitness, not necessarily like competitions and like wearing bikinis and getting, rated and sculpted and wearing all the oil, but she wanted to be fit for the functionality of it, and she wanted to feel good. And so she was very in shape, and pregnancy took all of that away. And not that it's a vanity reason, but I mean, who would want to be sick for 10 months straight, throwing up and not wanting to eat any food and not being able to go anywhere and having to worry about, I felt so bad for her when we took like a little baby moon to Tennessee for a couple days. And before our first flight, she got not like a nausea spell, but she couldn't keep it anymore. So she had to go throw up. So she went to the bathroom, and she took off all her clothes because she knew she was going to pee all over the floor. And she might not want me to share that, but there it is. So that's just what she has to do at that point, because she throws up so violently that she can't even control it.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of what you have to prepare yourself for. And that's what nobody sees. They're like, even the nurses and stuff, when we go sometimes to ER or like whatever we're checking up on, like they're like, oh, it's just morning sickness, it'll get better. We're like, you obviously don't know. You don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, so it's obviously it's hard to eat, but she would have had to eat something or somehow get nutrients in those 10 months to feed herself and the child.
Yeah, and so that's where like forcing herself to eat came into play. Like she would literally, I don't even know how to explain it. How she's so tough. Like I gave her so much credit. I mean, I would just make kind of whatever, and she, might have to go into the other room while making food, or like while we were in the trailer, she would eat a lot of eggs and like plain toast with butter sometimes, and like a lot of noodles, just plain noodles if she could. We tried to do like salmon bowls with lettuce. Sometimes that'd be too much for her. Rice, like really plain, really simple. You don't like salmon?
No.
Oh, salmon's amazing.
It could be because recently I've been eating canned salmon, and that's just...
Yes. Gotta go to Costco, get the salmon burgers. They're so worth it.
Really?
Oh yeah, we bought like 3 bags. It's like 18 patties of wild caught salmon. I don't know. It's a great way to go. But anyway, so yeah, it's basically like anything and whatever, just very plain, very simple, lots of carbonated water. And she now with this pregnancy, she kind of knows, like she just has to. Like this morning, she was like sitting at the table and like just I could see her trying to gear herself up for it. Like she pushed her food away. She was like closing her eyes and like gagging at the table and just she's miserable. But that's why I say it'll probably be our last one biologically. Love to adopt, maybe we will, but so all of that is happening while we're in Utah, right? So
Yes. Yep.
so we have our son, and the young adults is supposed to launch like a month later. And so we start, and we have like, I think the first day, 2 people came. One girl I never saw again. The other guy, he would still come. And then the second time was, I think, a couple people more. It was like one family of like a Polynesian family, really cool guys. And then they would pretty much come intermittently. And then it was like some of the volunteers that were like working. Like one family was Clayton on a list that they were doing like youth, and Josh and Jasmine. was pretty much it. So
were Josh and Jasmine down at the same time you were, or did they come a little bit later?
They moved later. So we moved in, like I said, we got there like November 1st, basically Halloween, and then they came down for the night of worship on New Year's Eve, and then I think 2 or 3 weeks later they called us and told us that they were moving down, which was super exciting. So I think they came and visited one more time, maybe, before they moved. And then they moved. And Calvin and Mackenzie came out and visited, and they were actually, Josh and Jasmine and Calvin and Mackenzie were over at the trailer 5 days after Hugo was born. I think he was 5 days old. Beth was like, yeah, I probably should have stayed in bed that whole time. But so it was fun to see them. And then they just moved back like 2 months ago, I think.
Back to Michigan.
Yeah, because he was telling me their last day in Michigan at Res, I think, was Easter. Easter was their last day, and then Easter was their last day at Hilltop in Utah. So it was like a full year. And so, yeah. So young adults, I mean, it never really went anywhere. But it was interesting to have the realization that the people that were there really didn't know anything about the Bible. Like the family that I was talking to, they came from kind of an LDS background, because they're actually from a lot of like the Polynesian community there will, move from Hawaii because it's so expensive and go to St. George because the climate is very similar. So there's a very big Polynesian community down there. But I would, like, I think the first or second time first time was more like a get together. I did plan like a whole sermon, and I had, cross references and all these different verses, and it was just like right over their head. I was like, okay, I really got to dumb this down. And then I did that again for the next sermon. I did like a passage and I dumbed it down, and still like, right. I was like, okay, I need to do like one verse, and we'll just talk about that, because that's just where we're at.
This
right
was
now.
for the main service?
This is for like our like 5 people that came to young adults.
Okay.
Like the couple people that were there. And so I was like, wow, we're like nowhere, and I was really struggling to figure out where to start. Well, where to start really, because the pastor he's trying to start the whole church and make sure
that was Jared, right?
Yeah.
Gregory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's trying to, start the church, make sure the the rent's getting paid for the space, make sure all the volunteers are doing their thing. So I'm like, all right, well, I got to figure this out. So it never really came together. It was a great learning experience, but it was tough.
What does the future of the Hilltop look like now? Is it still there?
Yeah, it's still there. I really have no idea. I haven't talked to them since we left.
Is Jared still running it, or is it somebody else?
Yep,
okay.
Him and Alicia. Yeah, haven't talked to him.
And what made you want to move down to Utah in the first place? Like, who gave you the idea?
It was so it's such an interesting story that I'm still working through. However long it has been later, a year and a half later.
Still working through.
Yeah, just like a lot of healing. Because like when we went down there, we spent like all the money that we had. We pretty much saw nothing come from it, and we came back with like our head between our tails, basically.
Yeah.
So, like one of the things that Beth said, she's like the one thing I do not want to do is come home with no money and nothing to show for it, and like basically with our head between our tails, and that's exactly what we did.
Well,
and I'm not saying that we should have never gone, but like I just still have a lot of questions about it. Like we were tested a lot, and and our faith in each other and in God is still there and strong, but it's just like, okay, did we miss the timing? Like, did we just hear you wrong? Because initially the reason I wanted to go out there was I met with Jared at a coffee shop before a shift at Amazon for delivery driving. So I met him at a coffee shop out by our house on Broadmoor, and he asked me to seriously consider and pray about going down and helping, unpaid and not exactly what it would look, didn't say what it would look like. He just said, hey, pray about coming. And I had already been praying because at that time my internship had just ended with Res, and I was really hoping to get on staff at Res, specifically in young adults. I had a whole proposal that I gave to Daniel Cavazos at the time, who was the next gen pastor that Jake is now. He's now the executive, what Pastor Al was.
Yep.
So I presented it to him, and he looked it over, and then we had another meeting. Said, just not going to happen. Didn't really say why. If it wasn't in the budget, or they didn't see if it was necessary, and just wasn't a thing. I think it was two meetings. It might have been one. And so I was like, okay, no problem. Like, still gonna finish out my internship strong, and so like that ended, and I just was like, okay. Because that was 2 years of young adults with Res that I interned with. I mean, Res was very much my life. I was there.
Yeah, I
Sunday,
remember when
Tuesday,
you were the
Thursday, sometimes Wednesdays. Like I was there a ton, and I was like, okay, well, this is over. I got to figure out what's next. And so I was just praying and fasting one day, and I got this word from the Lord. I was like, this is going to be a season of building. And I was like, okay, I have no idea what that means, but I know that I heard you and you said something, so I'm good for now. And so I was just hanging on to that. And then that's one of the things that Jared said is like, we're going down there and we have to build everything. You have to build the community, the church, the relationships, all of it. And then I felt like the Lord quickened that word in my spirit. And I knew we just had to go like that day. And so we made plans. We prayed about it some more, and I was like, I knew we had to go, but I was going to make sure that Beth was on the same page. So I asked her to pray about it, and we were kind of praying about what the timing was. And, I kind of thought we were supposed to go more towards like December, like the end of the year. And she was like, I think we're supposed to be there like in October. I was like, okay. So that time, I think it was, I think it was May, June-ish, around that time when I met up with him. So I quit my job in September. I think it was like the first week of September. We got everything ready. We moved into the trailer all of October, basically. So we had like 3.5-ish weeks to kind of figure out what that would look like. Because we were living with her parents before we left. So that was the first time we actually lived on our own, was within the trailer. And so we figured out, how it would be to cook meals and, shower, and because it had everything in there. It was just a very small space.
Yeah.
So, and then just make sure I knew how to do check the gas tanks, and I had to do a lot of repairs on the trailer actually, because it's 1,800-mile drive, and it went through like Iowa, I think, Kentucky, Colorado, I think was the biggest one. So the first, my dad stayed with us for like 3 or 4 days because he drove the trailer down for us.
Okay, so he was down in Utah with you.
Yep, at our campsite. And he's the handyman. He can fix anything. I don't think I'm that technically handy, but I was able to fix some stuff. Like our water pipe started leaking. Our furnace went out. And surprisingly enough, up in the mountains, because we were like 38 2,800 feet elevation. And just to give you the elevation change, the drive to the church was only 20 minutes, the movie theater, and it went from 3,200 to like 2,300 elevation. So the elevation out there is crazy. Where Jared and Alicia lived, which was like 15 minutes from us, was actually like 5,000 feet elevation, something.
Wow.
It was, so I mean, you're in the mountains, in the Red Rock. And it got cold up there at night, like into the 30s. So I was literally in this 2.5-foot crawl space underneath our trailer, trying to get the furnace out, try to replace like a blower fan part and put it back in there. And it was crazy. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And I was so mad that I had to, but I got it done. I got new like connections on all the water pipes. And because I'm like, now it was very maturing for me. Because I'm like, well, I can't just leave it. I have to fix it because otherwise nobody else is going to do it.
Yeah, and you have no other choice.
There's no other choice. So I did it. I went to the hardware store. I FaceTimed my dad, and I was like, okay, what do we got to do? And so he sent me some videos on some parts to replace, and he helped me a lot because he's like, it's probably this there was this little tiny, like, winged piece that would detect the airflow, and that had busted with all the jostling and all the jostling in the 1,800 miles. So that was fun. Yeah, there was so much that we didn't expect to happen. And like when we came back, we just had to work through it all. I met up with Pastor Al when we came back, and he kind of helped me put a lot of the words to my feelings. It's like your circumstances really just caught up to you. You know, being 1,800 miles away from all your support, you know, not having a bunch of money. There's more just like having a kid, trying to start a church, just like it's more than any one, you know, young married couple can handle. So it was like, it makes sense that you guys would come back. So that was really encouraging to me because it was a lot, you know. I was like, I felt like we went. You just felt embarrassed. Yeah. Yeah. Like, okay, now what? Like, we sent out letters. Like, we started social media pages. It's just like, this is awkward. Came back, just deleted all of our social media, and now I'm back in my in-laws' basement and have a kid, and I have no idea what the future is going to look like. I have no money. So yeah, that was a good time.
And now what's it like being a dad since you've had more experience?
Oh my gosh, dude. It's the most tiring thing I've ever had to do. But
you sound like the opposite of Ricky.
What did he say?
He made it sound like it was the greatest thing on earth. Which, I mean, it is. I know it's rewarding, but it's just funny to hear it in a little more of a...
I'll be real, man. I don't know that Ricky's a very real person.
No, he was. It's just funny.
You definitely can tell where you are, like, maturity-wise, when you are thrown into parenthood. Like, if you're not, like, I would say we were unprepared. Like, I thought we were prepared, but oh my gosh, I was not prepared. She knew what was going on. She's the one who's tethered to reality. I'm the dreamer. I'm in the clouds.
Somebody's got to be.
Somebody's got to be. One of us has got to be the realist, and one of us has got to be the dreamer, and I'm the dreamer. But it's so hard. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is a blast, and his little laugh and his giggles and his smile are worth all of it, but it is definitely the hardest thing I've had to do. And I only have one. I think Ricky's got 4.
It does.
But I mean, I think it brought the challenges that came with it. Like in the beginning, a big part of us leaving too was Beth was super, super depressed, and you know, rightfully so. I mean, the complications that she had with Hugo. First of all, him being super fussy, and me trying to start the ministry, so I'm away, you know, not supporting her. Right. And there'd be times where I go for rehearsal and she'd come back just holding him. He's crying. She said he cried the whole time you were gone. Just like 2 hours, and he has a high pitched scream. It is infuriating and so irritating, which Beth hates when I say that, but it's just how I feel. So it's so aggravating, but I love him. I have to say that part. I do. I really do love him. But so I mean, she's doing that, and you know, I'm gone, and she has nobody to reach out to. The one couple that we did really connect with, Chase and Bailey, that we just went to Disney with, I told you about. Yeah, they moved away while we were there, so they moved to Indiana, which worked out good for us because now we can see them now that we're back in Michigan. But They moved. Oh, I'm trying to remember. So we left in May. I think they moved in maybe March, April. Because
Of
Chase
this year?
of while we were down there, it's 2023.
Okay.
So because Chase was planning on taking a new job within his company, moving up, and so they're like, yeah, our timeline maybe like 9 months, but if Bailey was going to get this other job at the church that she has now, it was going to move their timeline up from like 9 months to like 3 weeks, which she did get the job. So they were gone really fast. I think they were gone in March. So I could be wrong on that, but it was like that was really the only people that we really connected with, because we would go over there, we'd hang out at their house, and just be parents, because their son is about 6 months older than ours, so they still have a very young kiddo, and we're just shooting the breeze, just being parents together, and then they left, and there was one other family that we connected with a little bit, but they were super busy with their jobs, and we just didn't quite make the connection. So she's super depressed, by herself. Hugo was not breastfeeding well, so she had to, that was another part of her journey. She had to she couldn't breastfeed, so she had to pump for almost like 9 months, which obviously you and I will never experience that, but being hooked to a mechanical machine for 20-30 minutes every 2 hours does not sound like a good time. And
No.
for all the people listening, this is just real. So, I mean, your nipples get chafed, like it's painful, like you don't want to, like you want to go places, but you have to bring this bag with a pump and all these parts, and like you're attached to this mechanical thing, and it limits what you can do socially. And so it's like it's hard to do anything, because you're right. She's making the sacrifice to feed our child, because we didn't want to do formula, but nothing against people who do formula, but it was really hard for her.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother aspect where we're back, and that's still a thing, but it was even more down there, and they just didn't have like medical experts down there. So of all, like Hugo, we had to have actual lip and tongue tie surgery, which I was telling you about earlier, when he was about 6 months old, which was horrible. We had to do it. We had to stretch his tongue every 4 hours, even in the middle of the night. So, and usually they can identify it right when he's born, but we did like a natural birth with a midwife at a birthing suite, which was amazing. But that's not her medical practice to diagnose that sort of stuff, and we had somebody helping us out with that. That just didn't work out. And if she hears this, she'll probably reach out to me, but I blocked her numbers. And yeah, so it was just like, it was a mess. So like that should have been noticed and fixed within the first like 3 days of his life. And
I'm assuming it's easier when it's noticed first. Okay.
Right. Cause I tell you, he couldn't, move his tongue at all. So he can't, cause you're literally supposed to like, to get the milk, and he just couldn't do that. So it made breastfeeding, because basically, right, he's a baby. He doesn't know how to communicate. So he can't latch. He can't get any milk. He's hungry. He's frustrated. He's tired. So this cycle of crying and fit, and there's just nothing we can do. So we went to bottles, and that helped a lot. But yeah, so we're just dealing with all of that coming back. And then once we got back and settled, it was just like, okay, how do we figure out how to be like parents now? Because we barely figured out how to be husband and wife. Luckily, we communicate very well. But yeah, it was just a whole jambalaya of mess. And we finally, I feel like, gotten to a sort of stable spot until I got laid off from my job. So we're kind of starting all over again. But yeah, it's been a heck of a year and a half, that's for sure.
And now you got number 2 on the way.
Now we got number 2 due in like, it's the minimum 3 weeks, max 5 weeks.
Do you know if it's a boy or girl?
A boy.
What's the name going to be?
Can't tell you. It's a surprise.
What?
I know.
Is it going to be?
I haven't even told my parents.
I
can't tell you. Your name. No, it's not. I don't think anybody. I don't have any family members with that name.
That's always the first.
Last name will be Duzan, though. You can count on that.
Well, I know that. What made you think of the name Hugo? Was it the clock movie?
It was a name that Beth had always liked, and So that was the only thing that was the only reference I had to that name was the book
movie.
and the movie. Yeah. Because there is a book. It's about as big as your books here, called Hugo. Same story, the boy and the clock or whatever. I haven't even read it or
It's
seen
really
the movie.
that big of a book?
It's massive, but it's got a lot of pictures from what I've heard. It's a lot of pictures, so you would like it. But I have to look it up again. But his middle name is Lewis, which I believe Hugo. It's one or the other. His name means intelligent and like bright spirited. So that is what kind of illuminated me to falling in love with the name. And it really felt like God just kind of solidified it because Beth was like, "What do you think of Hugo?" And I was like, "I like it." And then I got the middle name Lewis, kind of like that. It's kind of like another quickened in my spirit sort of thing. And I was just like, so we had that name from the time she was like 7 weeks pregnant-ish until he was born. We just knew, before we found out the gender, we were just like, that's his name. So we knew it was a boy. So Hugo Lewis it was.
Hugo Lewis Duzan.
And then it was not like that at all for this one. We had no idea what to name this one and didn't really feel like it got any impressions. So.
And then you came up with the name.
Exactly.
Thought I could trick you.
Gotta be quicker than that.
Next time.
Next time. Yeah. There's no next time. We're not getting pregnant again.
Well, not to bring it up again, but Ricky said that sometimes vasectomy doesn't work.
Gosh. That's what I thought he had a vasectomy and it backfired or not backfired.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily him that it didn't work on, but he's just heard that it doesn't.
He had a vasectomy, didn't he?
Yes.
Did you ask him?
Yes, he said publicly, so we can say that yes.
I talked to him about it too, but I just couldn't remember. I'm pretty sure.
But he said that there's cases of where the guy gets it and the woman, and they still have a kid.
The only way is just have a hysterectomy, take the organs out. I'm not recommending that. I'm not saying, but it is a surefire way.
Sounds like you kind of are.
I mean, there are ways. There are ways, but we will be taking all precautions, which is kind of what got us into the first, not in trouble, but Hugo, surprise, Hugo was a condom baby, so it doesn't always work, folks.
I thought you guys were doing like the natural.
We were, yeah.
And then those people are always the first ones to have a kid. We're doing natural birth control, where we just know the cycle, and then
it might have been one of those yellow days, maybe, but we were protected. You rest assured. But here we are. So thankful. I really am. I mean, Hugo is so special. So we just went to Disney World for like 4 or 5 days, and he came back a whole different kid. Like. And Jake Blaukamp told me, he's like, you just got to hang in there for 9 months. They're kind of like a dud for about a year, and then you start to see some personalities.
It's true. I've had a lot of nieces and nephews, and they go through lots of different phases.
But after this trip, like, he's blossomed, and he's kind of a nutcase. Like, we were at Costco, I think yesterday, and he's a very coy, very shy, doesn't like new people at all kind of person. And we're in Costco and he's in the cart and he's like, hi. And strangers are like, hi. He probably had 4 people say hi to him while we were in Costco.
And everybody else ignored him?
Everybody else ignored him, yeah.
Oh.
Yep. So it was so cute. And he's just a bundle of joy. And it's interesting now because Beth just told me something this morning, like when mothers are pregnant and in like the last few weeks or so of pregnancy, I don't know if it's like 4 or 6 or whatever it is, but they say the hormones change because baby's getting ready to come in, and the kids can sense it, and it causes them to be a little bit fussier. So this morning he was a pistol. He woke up just like asking for a fight.
Hugo?
Mm-hmm.
They can sense when the mom is going to...
Well, they can sense like the hormonal changes in mom affect Hugo. They affect me too. Like pregnancy brain, it's been rubbing off on me. I be forgetting stuff all the time.
You were already doing that.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. But anyway, I think that even through all the hard times with raising kids, at the end, it's always
Yeah,
rewarding and
I
worth
mean,
it.
I've always wanted to be a dad. I guess being the dreamer, and I idealized what it would be like in my head. So I did have these visions of like playing catch with a kid, and working with him through hard things. But then you forget about all the other details, the everyday part of life. So it really is a pleasure, and it's just hard. You realize how selfish you are when you have a kid, because most of the time when I'm mad at him, it's not that he's doing something wrong. He's just doing something that I don't want him to do. So I have to get over myself, not the other way around. So it's like letting go of a lot of those things and just letting him explore and letting him do what he wants to do besides stuff that's going to get him killed, like sticking his finger in the electrical outlet. If he wants to play with that backpack and get in all my stuff and take my cards out of my wallet, well, whatever, dude. Just let him do it. Keep him happy. Let him explore.
Yeah. I don't know. It's the first I've heard that, but
Everybody's parenting style is different. I mean, I don't want to ever like stifle his adventuring or his creativity or his curiosity,
Yeah.
And there are things, right? I think, who said it? I think it was maybe Jordan Peterson. It was like, you got to let kids do dangerous things safely. So it's letting your kids, climb the stairs, or letting them, figure out what color that pencil is or marker or whatever. But, climb a mountain. But you're there to protect them and make sure that you set the boundaries, whatever you want to set them as a parent. Maybe the boundaries that you set define whether you're a good parent or not. But you always have to draw the line somewhere. But it's also that balance of keeping the kid happy and not crying, while also instilling a little bit of discipline and force. And he won't understand discipline until he's like 2.5, 3, I think.
Yeah.
But it's just a parenting game. Like, we get to start it all over here in 4 weeks.
Seems so excited.
I'm so excited. Can you tell? I really am. I mean, I'm not mentally prepared at all for the newborn sleep and, just taking half-hour increments of sleep at a time. But I'm very excited because we're looking at the future. Like, we're going to be... So her parents, Beth's parents, I think her dad was 40, somewhere between 40 and 43 when her younger brother Caleb was born. So, and I'm 26, so when our second son is born, by the time they're, like 20, we'll be 40. So we'll be kicking kids out of the house at like 40 instead of 60.
Yeah, that's got to feel nice.
So I'm very excited for that. Then we can take all the money we've saved and travel or do whatever the heck we want. Move to Florida. Move to Disney World.
I would never move to Florida.
Maybe Montana.
That would be a place to live. Or Wyoming.
Yeah.
Wyoming State. I wouldn't mind Utah either. It is weird that there's all the Mormons there, but
I would say northern Utah. I mean, it depends on where you go. Like, what's the city in northern Utah? I can't remember. Salt Lake City. That one.
But that's like Mormon Central, I thought.
All of it's Mormon Central. Like St. George is a lot of people are leaving the LDS church. So like St. George is kind of becoming the last like Mormon stronghold. But I mean, they're still everywhere. Like there's Mormon temples here in Michigan.
There is one just popped up on, or it might have been there for a while, but I just noticed it on Duzan. Or 54th and Byron Center. Whatever it is, it turns into Duzan and then back into 54th Street.
Is it like a ward or is it like actual temple? You would know if it was a temple. It would be a pretty majestic looking building.
Then it must just be a ward.
Probably just a ward. But there are like temples here. Have I shown you any pictures of the temples?
No.
I'll show you when we're done.
I heard they're actually really cool.
They are beautiful buildings. They're incredibly creepy once you figure out what goes on inside of there. But like a whitewashed walls, like there's a thing, it's like the baptism of the dead or whatever, or for the dead. I don't remember. But basically it's like you can get baptized for your ancestors. Like, but you have to be able to trace your lineage, though. As far back as you can trace, you can get baptized for them. So there's like people, then you could probably find some videos on it, but they have this basin. It's like 5 or 7 like big golden bowls, and there's a like bull with horns, and there's a pool for like the baptismal, and they'll like dunk you for like if you have 7 ancestors, and you're gonna get baptized for all of them, so that they can move up to a higher heaven, like you can repent for their sins or whatever and get them into so they're like dunking you. Like if you have 7 ancestors, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like they just slam.
Imagine
dunk
if you had
to that
100.
If you could trace that many, I don't think you'd want to, but I don't know. We actually got to tour the visitor center of the new temple because St. George is actually one of. So St. George has the very first temple that was built for the LDS Church in America. So I think it was in the 1800s or something. Maybe it's way longer than that, but it's the first one. And they built another one. Probably open by now, but you could visit the visitor center for the original one. And they have this like tour, and it's kind of creepy. Like they have this. I'm trying to remember what it was. It's like a bench seat, and they have like these scenes set up, and they kind of take you through like a movie of like it's almost like a testimonial. It's like if you took somebody's testimony and made it an advertisement, but took out all the gritty details of their testimony. Like that's what this was. It's obviously like written by somebody, and these people weren't real, but they're like, this family went on a vacation and they went like hiking, and their kid fell and almost died, and they saved him. And they're going through money problems, and it's like they find a ward or something, and they come to the Mormon faith. It's like a weird thing, but at each bench they have like a spotlight on like a scene. Like you're watching the TV and like it's happening. It's like this is like their living room, or this is like the park that they went and hiked in or whatever. It was really weird. But the tour, the visiting center has just all these different things, and they had a big picture of like all the different. I don't think they call them. I think they call them presidents now. There's prophets. Yeah, whatever. All these dudes in white robes, and they're like in Tuscany or something, and. It was just weird, man. You got weird vibes, but you can like Google what the inside of these temples look like. But they have a ceremony where they'll build it, and they'll let anybody tour it for like 3 weeks, and then they'll rip out all the carpet and put new carpet in because it's been defiled by all the unholy
Gentiles.
sinners. Yeah. I mean, no, I don't know if they call them Gentiles, but the sinners, the imperfect. And yeah, they're disgusting. Like I saw pictures, and there's just like literally whitewashed everything. Like you almost can't even see any of the features of the room or the chairs or anything. Like it's just creepy. It's just creepy.
That is because they always come off as so nice. At least on YouTube, where like people are talking to them.
They're nice to your face. They can be very, very like condescending and like behind your back, like cut your throat kind of thing. Like they're.
This gives me an uneasy feeling.
Yeah, but everybody has to be perfect in that culture, or like you don't make it into the highest heaven, or like there's literally it's like almost. It's kind of like with Christianity, like saved by faith through works. Like it's not grace; it's all works. But you can't sin, you can't do anything wrong. You got to follow all the rules, and it's an impossible standard. But so you just have all the lying and the gossiping, and yeah, it's a weird culture to be a part of. But they're like people there will, and it's totally different from here, right? In our little, that was one thing nice about going retrospectively, like looking back. So like it definitely popped our West Michigan kind of Granville res bubble, you know. Because I ran into a kid that his family were polygamists, so like. He was, and he was maybe 14, and his dad kicked him out because he saw him as competition for his wives or something. So he's like on the street, 15, just in the middle of the city. And there's a lot of people that are like that. But there are towns like where Jared and Alicia live. They actually live across the street from like a more fundamentalist of the LDS, because I always wanted to call them Federalists for some reason, but they're fundamentalists.
Yeah.
Yes, of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that's where they had their split. I think, could be wrong, but it's like they believe in polygamy. LDS doesn't really believe in polygamy.
Yeah.
But there is still a remnant of that. Like if you look into Warren Jeffs, and if you watch the documentary Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey on Netflix, I think it's still on there. A remnant of that community is in the St. George area, where like they had more of like the I want to call it the commune, but like the compound where all these like they literally bought like an entire city. I think it's called Short Creek. Like this is the FLDS, and everybody like worked and gave all their money to the church, and it's more like the manipulative sexual abuse kind of cult. Yeah, but a remnant of that is in St. George, and so it's crazy because you have the FLDS and you have which is just kind of how do I call it? Spread out like a little bit, dispersed out here and there, and then you have the LDS, which is everywhere. Like you drive around here, you'll see a church in every corner. You'll literally see. There's one road that has 2 wards on both sides.
Is a ward just a small temple?
A ward is like a church, like what you would consider. That's where people go on Sunday for their message, and we never actually went to one, which you're able to, and I wanted to, but just with our circumstances, we weren't able to with Hugo and all the stuff we had going on. It wasn't really at the top of our list, but because anybody can go, but depending on where you live, you're actually assigned, like I think within your zip code or street or whatever it is, you actually have to go to a certain one. And then you can visit other ones, but Chase was telling me like it's like an 8 a.m. to noon kind of thing, and there's all kinds of different stuff. There's a dress code. There's nothing wrong with dress code, but it's very cultish. And
don't they also check your paychecks to see how much that you should be giving?
Yeah, you have to give them your, I think, tax returns to see if the amount that you tithe was actually like up to the 10% that it's supposed to be. And then if it's not, then you lose status or whatever. Like there are many stories of people literally getting disowned. Like if let's say you're in a cul-de-sac, right? There's 10 houses on it and everybody's LDS and you turn Christian, like nobody will talk to you. Like everybody that you were friends with, like you're not getting invited over to any barbecues. Like they won't talk to you. They'll probably talk bad about you to everybody. Like it's just so bad that people have to leave neighborhoods or just like they're cut off entirely from their families because of their faith. Like some people will just do that. I don't know if it's like that for every family because Chase and Bailey, they're Christians now, and his parents are still very much LDS, but they still want to be grandparents to their grandchild. So there's some definitely awkwardness there.
Do they recognize the differences between their children's faith? Because I know some Mormons think that they're Christian and so are other Christians, but then...
Yeah, I don't know necessarily, because I think one thing that I realized there is that it's so... Just like here, I think people are just kind of indoctrinated into the religion of the culture. Like growing up in the Bible Belt. Like if your family grew up Christian, like you're probably Christian. You may not know what it means. You may not follow any of it, but you're Christian, right? And so it's
by
very...
culture.
Yeah, it's very similar that way with LDS. Or I don't know how much of the people are literally like very, endowed in their beliefs and follow, whatever the Book of Mormon and all their other books and all their rules, or if they're just like, yeah, my family's LDS, we go to this ward and it doesn't affect me. I try not to sin. I don't drink coffee because I can't have caffeine.
Yep.
And stuff like that. So it was interesting to go to another place and see that, what's the word? See that kind of idea play out. Where like we're a Bible Belt, they're LDS. You go somewhere else, you go to India, everybody's Hindu.
Yeah.
Maybe they're Hindu because they believe it, or they're just Hindu because everybody else around them is Hindu. So
right.
It was interesting to see that because you could definitely tell like some people wouldn't like a care less. But it's how it plays out because I wasn't, really super heavily involved in that community. It's hard to see the ramifications of saying I'm no longer LDS or I'm a Christian. But there are stories of people being totally disowned and families cutting them off because of their faith change. So I think there are some like true believers in LDS and some people who are more casually and culturally, I'll call it.
Seems like there's a lot of religions like that where you just get disowned once you start believing. But Christianity is the only one where it's like, we'll still keep you around. We'll be friends with you. But I mean, obviously there's like the disagreement in belief, but there's still not like I'm going to disown somebody.
Yeah.
Or cut them completely out of my life.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things that I think about a lot, and it's like, where is the line between casually and culturally a Christian and like actually being a follower of Jesus? And I think it's only inside the context of a relationship that you really see the people who are casually and culturally a Christian and who are actually in their Bible and doing what they are talking about. You know, as with anything, you know, talk the talk, walk the walk, but...
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to draw a definite line, but like I've got friends, I won't use names, but I've got friends that they'll be anti-LGBTQ, which is widely recognized as a sin in the Christian community, rightfully so.
Right.
But then he'll swear all the time. And like, it's just like they'll swear or they'll go and hook up with women. But like there's certain Christian aspects that they'll be against, but they're not following. I would say that's one of the lines. Like, they recognize what is right and wrong, especially from a Christian perspective, but then they're just not living it out entirely. Yeah. But they'll choose the sins that they want to be against.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Christianity is not supposed to be about sides, right? There's two sides. There's the world and there's Jesus, you know?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
But we want to play this card where we're a Christian, but we also judge you based on what you do. Like whatever bent you have towards whatever you're going to hate. Like if you're going to hate drinking or if you're going to hate LGBTQ, if you're going to hate, fornication, it's like, okay, you have no justification to judge anybody. I mean, right outside of relationship, because I think that's the biggest thing. Social media has really driven us all apart, I think, because there is supposed to be judging that happens, but it's supposed to be, it's like among your close friends, like they're supposed to call you out. Like if you have no, and you don't, I don't know how you feel about this word. I think you've heard relational equity and you don't like the way it sounds, but like if I don't know you and I'm just like calling you out on social media, or I'm calling you out in person too, it's a little bit different, but I don't know the people who have the bravery to do that nowadays, call somebody out in person, that they don't. I don't know. It's just weird. Like, why are we throwing around so much hate and so much judgment? People are not, I think, introspective enough to look at their own dysfunction and their own sin. But I always want to play the card of like, I'm better than you, or I do this, but I'm not doing that. And it's just, It's so backwards. It's like everything it's all sin.
I think we should be preaching our gospel, and you can do that on social media. But then, like Jesus says, judge them not, for they know not what they do. He's talking about the world. And obviously, if we see sin, it's okay to call it out. Right. If somebody's coming up to us like, hey, you want to go to the bar this weekend and get smashed? It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And if they ask why, then tell them. Right. But then, it doesn't help for you to go up to some random person and just tell them everything they're doing wrong because, we don't have that.
You're just going to drive them farther away.
Yeah.
Backwards.
And it should be, as Christians, we should be strengthening ourselves. Iron sharpens iron. And then with that, I think that's how it spreads more, because people are going to form relationships with non-believers and slowly make that change within them. Right. I think it's that one-on-one that really changes people, instead of just posting a message on social media about how you need to dress more modestly.
Oh my gosh.
Which is a topic for another day. But
yeah, I haven't had social media in like a year and a half, like I told you. And it's just like, we always find our outlets, right? If I need, right, the dopamine hit, I might go play a game, or like if I'm feeling anxious, like I'll find something else to do where I can just click and click. But like, I don't have Instagram, I don't have Facebook, I still have YouTube, but I'm barely ever on it. And honestly, that has helped cut a huge part of like anxiety and just comparison and competition out. But I think it also forces you to be more personal, because we like to think that we're more connected with everybody when we constantly know what's going on, but you really don't have that there's no relationship. You've taken all the nitty gritty out of it. You've just got this clean cut, shortened, condensed version. It's like, okay, I see you did this, you did that. Oh, you're engaged, cool. But it's like, I don't actually know you. I don't know what you're going through or feeling, and I think it's just created, right? Social media is a tool. It's great for what you use it for, but I think so many people have forgotten how to be personable, how to have friends, and how to talk to people that can keep them accountable, and how to be, right? They want to be real online, but they can't be real with themselves about the struggles that they're going through, and they can't find help, and they don't have anybody to go to because they haven't cultivated any relationships that go beyond surface level.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the biggest downfalls of culture today is we've forgotten how to do like small community, and I have struggled to find it. It's hard. It's a hard thing to come by. You know, it doesn't come easy. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah, because not everybody's thinking the way that you are, getting rid of social media, and
it's
not that you necessarily have to, but
right. Yeah, it's not just social media, but like trying to find people, because it takes like intentionality, you to decide that you want to do it, and then you also have to find the right people. It's not like you just pick somebody who's like, okay, this person's going to be my accountability partner. You know, you gotta go through some nitty gritty together, you know, and build some trust before any of that can happen. Which is why I heard I've been listening. Do you know who Tim Ross is? I've been listening to him a lot on like Spotify.
Tim Ross,
yeah, he's the basement.
I know who he is.
I don't know what your opinion is on it.
Right now, I'm not the biggest fan because he did have that sermon where he compared Jesus to a stripper, and it's like, dude, come on. Like, you had better words.
Everybody always brings up the stripper one, but yeah, he talks a lot about judging people and having that, like, that long distance hate. It's like, you don't know what's going on. You're not there. You have no context. So like, why are you talking? And he just talks about the vulnerability, and kind of forgot where I was going, but he's been very inspiring to me to like just be more authentic and be more real, and try to pursue those relationships that are, they're gonna like bring something forth, and kind of dig in a little bit more than just, because I mean, there's nothing wrong with hanging out with the guys too, just going out and longboarding. Like, we did so much of that in the past.
Going out camping.
Oh my gosh, hauling our crap through the woods and up hills. That was a good time.
I'll never forget. Making my 2-stick tent.
Oh my god. Sleeping in a bag chair and then on the ground.
Yeah, dude, what was I thinking?
I don't know what you were thinking. And you were younger then too. You can't do that now.
I couldn't do it then. I barely fell asleep. And then it's like we wake up and Nathaniel's just like, yeah, I've been awake all night.
I think I'm freezing.
It was cool though, because we were out in the middle of the woods with a little fire. I mean, it was still.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think we ever really. We talked about some stuff, maybe me and you, but like collectively as a group, not that it has to be a group thing, but it's just like there's so much more opportunity, I think, for like better conversations than just, you can't hang out and play Smash Bros all the time.
Yeah, you should be bringing. I mean, it's good to have a group or another friend and do a Bible study or do communion together.
Right. Which we tried.
Like yeah.
And you gotta keep trying, and it's probably never gonna look the same how many different times you try it.
Yeah, it's hard to find a group that stays consistent with that. And like the last group we were doing, it's like people started drinking, and it's like, this is a Bible study, guys. Like,
Which group was that? Was that with us?
No.
Oh, I wasn't a part of that one.
No, you were not part of that one.
Okay.
That was with us. It was who?
You don't have to drop any names, but
I probably won't. But well, it's like, so I don't think that having a drink or something is a sin, but we're a Bible study. It just didn't feel right for me. That was all. But yours was what? Us. It was you, Luigi, me, Ethan.
Yeah. Yep. Us 4, I think.
A whole month.
I think Luigi made it twice, and then we did it a couple more times. Like, we would be out at Ethan's, where we were at the house, weren't we? Ethan's house.
It was Ethan's house, and then it was also the house that we lived in, I think.
It was, yeah. Was it Ethan's house before or after the house in Kentwood?
I don't remember, because I remember we had to leave that house so soon.
Yeah.
It was like, Ethan texted me. He's like, "Here, we got a problem." And I was like, "Why don't you just tell me what it is instead of saying it?" He's like, "All right, well, we got to be out today."
Today?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then I was like, "Hey, you got to ask him to see if we can like prorate it for a week."
Did the lease end? Like nobody was aware of it, or did he just shorten it? Okay.
Well, that's the last time I've let somebody else read the contract, and it was Luigi who read it, and then
of course,
and he missed over something important.
Oh my gosh, what did you guys do? I don't even remember.
I was like, I have to go back to my parents because I don't have anywhere planned to go right now, and I can't just be hauling this stuff around. So I futon dumped it, couch dumped it. Just drove it to the dump and got rid of it.
Really? You didn't even take it to your parents' house?
No.
I'm trying to remember what couch you had. Was that your couch in the living room?
Yeah. Well, there was Luigi's couch, was a little nice looking, and then I had that old floral one. It seemed like.
Oh no! You took that one from your? Was that from your parents?
I think that was from my grandma's.
Oh my gosh, dude!
Was
that in the basement? Was it like a 2-person? I'm trying to remember. I think I remember.
It looked like it was a 3. It seems like it was a 3-person couch, and it was brownish, and it had like a floral pattern on it, just like an old style. Like it looked like it came from my grandma's
Justified
house.
to take it to the dump.
Yes, and then the futon was just old. It's probably where my back problems have come from now because it's just sleeping
and the
on
floor bed. Is that a full mattress on the floor in there?
Yeah, I think it's a queen.
No, that's not a queen.
It might be full. It's definitely not twin. But dude, my room in that house was so messy. I don't remember if you ever saw it.
I do remember. You didn't like to let people in. It was on the top floor, but
yeah,
every once in a while I'd peek in there and you couldn't even see the carpet.
It's weird how much things have changed. Like I'm still like a little messy sometimes, but it's a lot better.
Do you still have all your denim jackets?
Yeah, but I don't wear them as much anymore.
Ah, dude. It's like the denim vest with the fleece sleeve. Always get me.
I have that one still.
I know you do. You still shopping at PacSun?
No.
Hollister?
Not really. This shirt is Hollister, but it's so old.
I was going to say, I recognize that shirt.
And it doesn't say Hollister on it, so I wear it.
I don't know if you're allowed to say Hollister on the podcast. You don't have that trademarked.
Well, I'm not sponsoring them.
Oh, my gosh.
But, yeah, I mean, you get older and you just stop wearing certain things.
I didn't stop caring. I just stopped trying as much. Because, like, I have a bunch of skinny jeans, but my kid, dude, he gets my clothes so dirty all the time. It's like, I remember the first time that we met with Chase and Bailey. It was at the coffee shop that I told you about, the one that was owned by the Christians. And we had never met them, but we knew that they were kind of similar age because Bailey is the same age as Beth. And Chase is a little bit older. He's like 31, 32.
Yeah.
So he's like 7 years older. But anyway, we were meeting them, and they come in with Jackson. I think Hugo, maybe Hugo wasn't born. I don't remember. He might not have been born yet. But they come in. We're sitting at the table, and I think 15 minutes in, Jackson has a blowout all over his shorts. So, like, he goes to the bathroom, and Jackson's their son. And he goes to the bathroom, like, changes his whole changes Jackson's whole outfit, but he has nothing, so he just tries to wash the poop off his shorts, and he just owns it. So, like, you just kind of have to. Like, nothing that I wear is gonna stay clean for a day. So
yeah,
if it's not worth changing my shirt to go somewhere. Besides today, because I knew I was gonna be here, I had to be presentable. But it's just like the little things. Like, I don't want to wear stuff that's too nice. I also want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I got these shorts at Costco. They're Eddie Bauer. They're like fleece, stretchy. They don't look like they're like maybe they do. I don't know. But I think they're super comfortable.
Don't look like what?
They don't look like, it's not like I've resorted to the classic white New Balance sneakers and tube socks. And
dude, I got it. I've been doing it. I wear it to the gym sometimes.
The tube socks?
The white tube socks with the white New Balances.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, I have to like
You gotta take care of yourself, man.
No, I have to like push the women away when I walk into the gym. I'm like, bro, like I know the shoes and the socks, but I can't right now.
They're just pouncing on you.
Yeah.
I can't resist the New Balance.
But yeah, as far as clothing, I don't necessarily go with expensive, but I just like to look a little more put together these days.
There you go.
Like a little more mature. And I feel like a lot of times the jean jacket just doesn't portray, which is sad, but gotta grow up.
I have like 9 jackets, and I love all of them, but I can't wear them in the summer. But I also don't know if I can wear them with kids.
Can't you put them in the wash, or is it like?
Yeah, no, I can wash them, but it's just like I have so many, and I'm really trying to like get rid of stuff and not have so much stuff.
Yep, that too.
Since Beth and I got together, like when we started dating, she didn't make me, but she's like, you have so much stuff, because she was a pure minimalist. Like she had everything that she owned in one point in a box that was like 18 by 18 inches. Like it was everything that she owned. And
clothes,
everything, more than just clothes, like books, notebooks, whatever, like laptop, all her personal belonging, hair ties, shoes, so like it all fit in one little box. Like that was it. And I'm like, I have 32 shirts. So I started getting rid of a lot, because I don't know, like, what's your opinion on like having hobo clothes you wear around the house but you don't wear anywhere else?
I think that's fine.
I try not to have too many of those outfits. I used to have a lot of them. Now I'm down to like 3 of those shirts.
Yeah, I think. Wow, voice crack. Yeah, I think that. I think that it's fine. I think that it's not that it's necessarily a sin, but when we go out into the world as Christians, like, look presentable. You know, like, don't be the
person wearing sweatpants and Crocs and long socks.
Yeah, even if you're grocery shopping, like, go out into the world and look decent. That's my thing.
I feel that. Like, you can be comfortable, but
Right.
I don't want to see your toes and you in your plaid pajama pants.
Yeah.
And a baggy sweatshirt.
Yeah, like,
And put on a bra, please. Just kidding. Women, don't hate me. You can do what you want. There are some people that just want to wear a sweatshirt. That's fine. I'm not looking. I'm married.
that's right. You heard it from him.
I get it though. Just look presentable. Like put some pants on, wear some jeans. There's nothing wrong with some jeans.
Right.
There are some people I have to not judge, but I'm just like, man, you must be comfortable.
Yeah, and if it's all they can afford, it's one thing, but I don't think that's always the case.
One thing I get irritated
But I
with
don't
is
know
like
either.
the AirPods. I think the AirPods crack me up more than anything. Like everybody's just got AirPods in nowadays.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up with the whole connection thing earlier is it's no wonder everybody's mad at each other. You can't even say hi to anybody.
Seriously.
Because if I want to go up to somebody and say hi or like, hey, what's up? Because I try to be more social. And then they have to take the AirPod out and be like, what? Then it's just awkward. Because I have to repeat it and it's not as confident as the first time.
Right. And it's definitely not as organic. You're
Right.
just like, excuse me. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, it's just cringy.
Yeah, you're not doing that anymore. You're not having conversations with strangers in the grocery stores.
Nope. Well, people, when they walk by me too, they look away or they're looking down. They don't even make eye contact. It's like
Eye contact is big. I don't like
it is
making
kind of
eye
scary.
contact with strangers.
I do, and I try to hold it longer. I try to be the one that looks away last. As a challenge.
You're also the person that if someone's driving too slow in the left lane, you'll get in front of them and slow down and put your blinker on to tell them to get over.
Yep, I've done that before. And it works sometimes.
I think about that every time somebody makes me mad on the road.
You
I
get
told
up,
Beth about it, and she's like, that does sound like him.
and I have the back wiper so I can wave goodbye to them too. It's fun.
Oh my gosh, it's so ridiculous.
Well, there's only 50 billion signs on the highway that say keep right except to pass.
That's true. That's true. Oh, I hate driving. People are the worst. Can I say that?
No, technically no. You have to say that they're the best.
People can be the worst.
Yeah. Driving, dude, that's another thing. I think there's too many people on this planet, or at least living in one place. I think a lot of the stress that comes from, at least in my life, is just being in traffic. There's so many people and so many red lights.
I mean, you think about, right, politics aside, like when you look at cities and how much congestion there is, and then you look at people who live more rural, and you look at like the way they vote, it's kind of funny. Like, but people, I feel like we've been really focused on, I don't want to say like country living, but like almost homesteading. Like we literally get our eggs from our neighbors because they have ducks. So we just do duck eggs, and we try to buy locally from farms. Like there's a place called Deep Roots right on the corner of 84th and Whitneyville.
Yep, Ethan and I did the scary corn maze.
Yeah, so they have like a bunch of like farmers who bring stuff in there. They have their own produce, but like we just try to buy locally. And I think people take for granted how much it takes to put like food in a supermarket, or like how far we've come. Because like at one point everybody was just getting food from farmers. There was just farm stands. Like,
yeah.
And then we had the first supermarket, which I don't know when that was, but then we started stacking people on top of each other in skyscrapers, and oh my gosh, I just think it's a terrible way to live. Like nothing against people who live in the city. Some people love it, but there's just a lifestyle that I appreciate that's much slower, that wants me to be, this may sound a little hippie, but like connected to like the earth or like to nature, you know? And I'm not talking about sniffing crystals and praying to stones and all that. I'm talking like
no, I know what you mean. It's like spending time out in God's creation, basically.
Yeah, putting my feet in the grass, like living off of the land, like having your own, like, it's funny because I, like Joe Rogan talks about it a lot. Like he's like, I love my Tesla, but if there's ever like an apocalypse, like I have a Toyota that has a 70-gallon gas tank.
Right.
And he's like, if all of this falls apart, and let's say we lose electricity and we lose everything, like who are going to be the first people to die? And it's like the people in the cities, because they don't know how to get food for themselves. Like it's all just brought to them and they buy it. And all the resources are going to go like that in a city that you have 8 million people in, like stacked on top of each other, like New York City. They're all dying first. Like they're going to kill each other. But the people out in the country, right, they have their own cattle, or like people, like communities can rely on each other. When you have too many people and resources are too limited, like not to sound apocalyptic and end of the world, but you did say we are in the end times.
Yep.
Like it's just, I kind of think about that sometimes. Like what if, like if it happened, like it, not there's going to be a nuclear fallout or World War IV. I did hear an interesting quote that I don't remember who it was. I think it was Albert Einstein or somebody was like, I don't know what World War.
It was Mark Twain.
Was it? Will be fought with?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
Yeah, I just heard that, like today or something, or yesterday.
Maybe it was Albert Einstein, but I just heard that too.
No, it was some real. I think Beth was on YouTube, and I'm like, that is so real. Like it just, if it all falls apart, and they were, oh, dude. I don't know. We can talk about AI later, but like we've just, the way we want to raise our kids is like we want them. We really noticed it when we went on our trip to Disney, and you see it a lot with just parents in general. And I understand, like, if the parent needs a break, like, give the kid a tablet and let them watch Bluey or something. But there's something about letting your kids watch a screen all day that I think just knocks them back socially and developmentally. And we want to raise our kids where we can be out in the country. Like, if we could have, 5-10 acres, like, have a homestead, like, have chickens, have pigs, have goats, get our own milk, like supply our own meat, and just be outside and eliminate screens from, obviously I don't know if they'll ever be totally gone, but there was an age where nobody had screens. Like the iPhone only came out, I think, in our generation.
Yep.
So, but nowadays people can't live without them. But it's like there was 2,000 years or more. I don't know how old the Earth is. I don't want to go there, but
oh yeah,
people just, they don't know that there's any other way, and they think that it's the only way, in their screen. No eye contact.
Yep.
Like what did we come to? And I find myself much more satisfied being outside and working hard and, kind of building something than just getting a paycheck and, going back to the routine of whatever debt I have to pay off,
Yeah.
So I don't know what your thoughts on that. You maybe like the castle living in the apartment.
No, I would love to live out in the country with my own crops and homestead and all that.
Yeah. It takes a lot of work though. Not everybody can do all of it. So I think
Right.
it's like we've talked a lot about like community living with different people, like buying a bunch of, if we could afford it, like you say you buy 10 acres and you put 10 people with houses on it and then everybody does something different. Like somebody raises chickens, somebody raises cattle, somebody.
That's basically, it's funny, that's basically the idea of socialism.
I know, like,
But it's not run by the government. That's the difference. You're not
Right.
giving power to the government. So I think when it's community led, I think it's different.
yeah.
It's when you give the power to the government to say, hey, this is how you're going to live.
Mm-hmm. And everybody's going to share everything.
But living in a community like that, the only problem is somebody's getting lazy.
I know. Somebody's getting lazy.
And then people are getting angry at the somebody getting lazy. And then that's the only downside is like people just ruin everything. They really do, because community living's a great idea.
Right.
You live with
But people
10,
are the worst.
Yeah, you live with 10 people and then you
One
share
person's
the
rules.
food, and but then someo's like, well, they're going to be doing this. I don't have to do as much. And then the guy doing more is like, well, he doesn't do anything.
That's
And
true.
then-
Yeah. There's so many different ideas we've thrown out and just trying to figure out what it looks like to like have our own home in this day and age. Because, right, we don't make a ton of money and stuff is just stupid expensive. And inflation has caused the prices of everything to go up. Not that we're going to rant about groceries and gas, but gosh, man, I can't save any money. And we don't even spend money a ton, you know.
It is hard. I don't really spend money either. I have 2 jobs, and it's hard for me to save money.
Yeah. So it just we dream, and we are where we are for right now, and it's not a surprise to God. Not that God's going to give me 10 acres and a mansion because He just wants me to have it, but
Yeah, sometimes
some of that's prosperity gospel.
yeah, sometimes you got to put in the work.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, but
Yeah.
it's nuts.
Would you want your farm or homestead to be in Michigan?
That is a good question. There's something to be said about living like far away from family. Like it's actually super fun. Like you don't necessarily have to deal with all the drama and all the stuff. Like when we were in Utah, that was just removed for us. You know, when we came back, and not that family's bad, but like,
No, it's terrible. Just kidding.
there's so much like maturing that happens, right? Because when you get married, or even just when you move out on your own, like you have to become something different than when you were living with your parents. Otherwise, like it just won't work. Like you have to grow.
You have to do your own laundry.
You have to wash your own dishes. And something about being in a different state is just so freeing. And like there's no family pressure. There's nobody telling you like what to do. Because I feel like even when we move out, like some parents are just a little overbearing. And so, but it's just crazy. I don't know. Have you ever lived out of state, like away from your family? I mean, you've lived on your own plenty of times, but
No, I've always wanted to move either to Arizona, which would be very hard to have a farm because it barely ever rains,
right.
or I want to move almost to the opposite side, which is Maine.
Okay.
I would love to live in Maine.
We really want to go visit Maine or like Connecticut or something over there, like
East
see
Coast.
Yeah. But it's just like it's so freeing and there's so much less pressure, and I think you're forced to come into your own a lot more. And
Yeah, because it's like you have to figure out life. There's no one here to save you.
yeah. I think that's the really big thing, right? That it's just a natural causation of the current circumstances of our nation and our culture. Like stuff is just so expensive, so you don't have people moving out on their own, like they're living in their parents' basement or something, or there's always like a fallback. And sometimes I think most of the time when there is no fallback and you do fail or you're forced to succeed, like there's just so much growth. And that's one thing that I've talked to Beth about a lot, is like living at her parents', is I know that there's so much more maturity potential with moving out, like living in an apartment or doing something else than living there. That
Yeah.
I know, like, I'm just at a glass ceiling, you know, that I can't shatter until I'm away from there.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of reached some of that when we were on our own in the trailer in Utah. We came back, and I recognize it even more now. Excuse me. But yeah, there's just a lot to be said about living on your own, and especially out of state. It's just like you have so much more opportunity to adventure, explore, like grow as a person and figure out, because there's really so much. I heard something the other day, like some clip from whatever Beth was watching. She's like, there's some British guy, somebody from the UK, about Americans. He's like, people say Americans are not well traveled. It's like, but they don't have to travel to go. Like every different city in America is a different culture. Because we have 50 states, and every single one of them is different. So you have so many different places you can go to be cultured within, you know, our own.
And different landscapes.
Yeah, seriously.
It's like Alaska has tundra, and then you can go to the tropics, Hawaii.
Right.
Alligators live in Florida.
The gators.
It's also funny, too, because I was watching... I got into like really big into national parks and hiking.
Yeah.
And so I was watching this guy from Florida talk about the national parks that he's visited. And he's just blown away by seeing deer.
Yeah.
It's like, to us, it's like...
Right. We hit deer with our car.
But it's just funny to see that and then he's used to alligators.
Right.
So when he's talking about the Everglades, he's like, yeah, there's some alligators here. And then it just goes over. But then he's like freaking out about deer.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing people need to do is travel more, right? I get everybody's money situation, but like there's just something to be said about getting out of your bubble and forcing yourself to experience a different culture, because you will find things that you don't recognize wherever you go, as long as you get out of the radius that you're comfortable in, you know?
Yeah.
So we did that in Utah. You know, vacations help a little bit, but living somewhere where you really are not relying on anybody else, you know, and you grow a lot when you're close to family, when you're living on your own. Like there's something huge to be said about that. But yeah, living away from family, out of state, is super. I don't want, like, if my family heard that, I don't want it to sound bad, because I love them dearly and they're great. But like just being away, you're just forced to, like I said, come into your own and figure out how much more of yourself that there is to discover yet. So I mean, we're very blessed in this nation to be able to have like the Grand Canyon and all the different mountains, and you know, you got all the different, right, like you said, the tropics. You can go all the way up to Alaska if you want to. I wouldn't, but maybe.
You can go to Nebraska where there's nothing. We have nothing here. Like you can go live where there's nothing too.
If you want to hide in the corn, like go for it. Kearney, Nebraska. That's where I left my favorite pillow in a hotel on our trip back.
Really?
So mad. And there's nothing there but like a Japanese steakhouse and 3 hotels. It's hilarious. There's one stoplight off the highway. But yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I think we're at about an hour 40. So
Really? Snap diggity.
I don't think if you've got anything else to talk about. If not, otherwise we can
I could talk about a lot of different things. I could talk about alien visitations. We could talk about Elon Musk. Just kidding.
Alien visitations?
I'm just kidding.
Okay, I was going to say maybe save that for next time because it's a long one. But yeah, we'll just end this one here. I think that's a great time to call it quits. It's 3:00. Getting late.
It is. I got to go to bed in like 45 minutes.
Yeah, me too.
Dinner's in 15 minutes, so I got to get going.
Dude, it's going to take you a half hour to get home.
I know. I'm going to be late. Bye.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Bye. And don't forget to have a blessed week.